Welcome to Mental Models Daily, where we explore one mental model each day to help you elevate your daily decision-making. Today we're exploring a fallacy that often leads us to see patterns where none truly exist. The Texas Sharpshooter Fallacy. I assure you, no Stetsons or spurs are required for this discussion. The Texas Sharpshooter Fallacy occurs when differences in data are ignored, but similarities are stressed. The name comes from a joke about a Texan who fires shots at the side of a barn, then paints a target centered on the biggest cluster of hits, claiming to be a sharpshooter. It's rather like drawing a bullseye around an arrow after it's been fired and calling yourself a master archer. This fallacy leads us to improperly assign meaning to clusters of data, when in fact these clusters might be entirely due to random chance. It's the cognitive equivalent of seeing faces in clouds. Entertaining perhaps, but not exactly scientific. Let's consider an example. Imagine a study finds that a particular town has an unusually high rate of a rare disease. Alarmed residents might blame a local factory's emissions. However, given the number of towns and the number of rare diseases, it's statistically likely that some town somewhere will have a high rate of some disease, purely by chance. Our Texas sharpshooter has simply drawn a target around a random cluster. In finance, this fallacy can lead to misguided investment strategies. A financial guru might point to a handful of successful stock picks, ignoring the many unsuccessful ones. This is akin to praising a weather forecaster for correctly predicting rain on the one day it happened to rain, while ignoring the sunny days they also predicted showers. The Texas Sharpshooter Fallacy often appears in discussions of paranormal phenomena. Someone might note that they were thinking of a friend just before that friend called, seeing this as evidence of telepathy. They forget about all the times they thought of friends who didn't call, or friends who called when they weren't thinking of them. It's like being amazed that you ran into someone you know at the supermarket, forgetting how many times you've been there and not seen anyone familiar. In health debates, this fallacy can lead to unfounded fears. A parent might notice their child develop symptoms shortly after eating a particular food, and conclude the food caused the illness. This is rather like blaming the last song you heard for causing a rainstorm. Correlation does not imply causation, especially when we're selectively choosing our data points. So, how can we avoid falling for the Texas Sharpshooter Fallacy? Firstly, when presented with a surprising correlation, look for the broader context. What's the total population being considered? What other factors might be at play? It's like stepping back from a pointillist painting. Sometimes you need to see the whole picture to understand what you're looking at. Secondly, be wary of post hoc pattern finding. It's easy to find patterns after the fact, but much harder to predict them in advance. If someone claims to have found a meaningful pattern, ask if they can reliably predict future occurrences. Lastly, remember that in any large set of random data, you're likely to find some patterns purely by chance. It's like finding a lucky penny. Given how many pennies you encounter, it's not surprising that one occasionally turns up in an interesting place or at an interesting time. In conclusion, recognizing the Texas Sharpshooter Fallacy can help us avoid drawing false conclusions from random data. It reminds us to be cautious about the patterns we perceive and to always consider the broader context of any apparent correlation. Thank you for joining me today on Mental Models Daily. I hope this exploration of the Texas Sharpshooter Fallacy hasn't made you too skeptical of your own marksmanship. Until next time, may your analyses be thorough and your targets drawn before you shoot. For more mental models, please visit mentalmodelsdaily.com or find us on X or Instagram. Our podcast music was provided by the podcasthost.com and Alitu, the podcast maker. Find your own free podcast music over at thepodcasthost.com/free.